So it's the updates for the HTML application, reporting application. So straight away, you'll see that some of the styling has changed, and there's a few extra drop downs, and there's quite a few more charts, and I'll explain what each one of these are to you right now. So in the previous video, you saw this chart already, which is showing you the current snapshot on any one day, and it sorts the bins from the most to the least. The most, I say the most, the least, because it could be the most weight, it could be the most bundles or stacks, and that is accessed via this top drop down here. So you'll see it says select data analysis for property. I've defaulted it to bundle for now. If I click on this, you'll see it as weight and stacks. If I click weight, you'll see some of these things have all changed around here, which I'll show to you now. Let's just choose bundle again and go here. So this is meaningful in seeing what you've got the most stock of according to bundles or according to weight currently on this day. Obviously you can choose any day on this list, and I've also added in the years, so this can span a few years now. I think I've set it to load up to 4 years worth of data that you can access. We never put any data in it last year, but I fudged 2 records for 2014, and I've just put them in there. You can see there are those 2, and they're starting out here. Let's just go back to 2015, where we currently are now. This is up to date as of today, the records that you sent me. So again, this was the second graph that you saw, which is the totals for the entire warehouse. So the total weight, total amount of stacks, total amount of bundles in the entire warehouse. And it's also convenient to be able to see. As I said, this graph, I'm working backwards in time this way. So if you see a grayed down line like this, it means that stock went out of the warehouse. And if it starts climbing up, that means that you've obviously received all the stock. But this is an average, and it doesn't show you a per bundle status. And that is what this bottom line is here. So if you click on any one of these bundles here, it always defaults to just loading the first one, B13. You'll see the title is there. There you can actually see a per bundle status. Also, via the same dates that is driving the full warehouse graph, you can see the individual bin lined up with the date of those graph. Again, also I've just chosen a few days, so let's just choose a span over 31 days. And then you can see this first bin, B13's graph, looks very similar to the entire warehouse, but not all of them will look like that. You'll see if I choose a B23, this will show you. Okay, remember this is coming for the fudge dates that I put in for 2014. I copied very little from the Excel, so that's why you see this drastic low number here, and then this a sharp increase. But anyway, again, you'll see that if you mouse over any of these points, it'll show you the actual date. This is the date line at the bottom over here, and this is the value. And we are currently looking at bundles. Regardless of what you have chosen up here, bundle, weight, or stacks, when you mouse over any node, I do actually show all 3 values to you. The graph, whatever you've chosen at the top, is just what the actual graph will measure on the sides here, and that is what these points are being based on. But on mouse over, you can still see any of those values of all 3, which is quite handy. Coming back down here to the bin timeline, you'll see that there are 2 extra drop downs here, and these are useful comparisons, and we'll get back to this now. But let me just move on to the next graph. And this is the most important, and I think the most beneficial and useful graph, is the rate of change. What this graph does is takes this timeline here for the entire warehouse or per bin, and then it works out a rate of change for whatever you've chosen. So if you've chosen weight, or if you've chosen bundles, it'll go across each day, and it won't count any stock increments. So any stock increment is stock up, that's not stock that's moved out of the warehouse. But as soon as from any point there's a downgrade in the line, it'll count that up and add that together, and that's what the rate of change is. And we'll do this over these days. So however many days we've chosen here, we've chosen 31 records to load. So starting from this point, going backwards in time, it'll measure how much stock has gone out of the warehouse. And then it also sorts them from high to low. So for the time span that we've chosen, which is from today's record, going back 31 days, or 31 records, as many days as it can find within that, it has found that these are the top moving bins. So W17 is the top moving bin. So what's nice about that, let's click on W17, if I can find it over here. See, it's not necessarily the most stocked bin at the moment, so this graph doesn't always tell you the rate of change, which is why I added the other feature. But let's just click that, because as soon as we click that, we can see this here. And as you can see, W17, you'll see that it generally just keeps going down and down and down, which means a lot of stock was moved out of this. And that is why this is the peak one over here. But the other feature what these two drop-downs now, let me show you, is that you can do comparison graphs. So say you wanted to look at W17 and you wanted to see C13, for example. Every time you click on here, it always just loads this as the current bin that you're viewing. But you can go here and say add bins. So I said C13, I think. So if we click that, you'll see it'll actually load the two timelines over each other. Google automatically chooses some contrasting colors for us, which we can then see a comparison of. Then you'll see, well, whatever you've chosen to add into here, it adds it into a removes bin. So if you want to remove it, let's just click another one quickly. I'll just choose anything like B11. So there's a third timeline that you can see a comparison of. You'll see on the remove bins now, there's two items here. You cannot remove the blue item. That's the item you selected up top here, and that's what all the bin information for is down here. So if I click and remove that, you'll see it'll remove it. If I click and remove that, we'll just be back to where we were with the currently selected bin, which we selected up here. Let's just choose another bin. Let's say B15. So that's how our B15 looks. And it also seems to be one that moved quite a bit of stock and had a bit of stock coming in again towards today's date. Let's add another bin to look at. I'll just do C23. You must also be aware of these numbers on the side here, because every time you load in two timelines and they've got contrasting values, it will increase the scale of this measuring unit here to be able to accommodate both graphs correctly. But if you've added one or two in here, let's just add another one in there. So this one's quite flat compared to the rest. You can still go up here and choose another bin, which will change the blue graph, and it will keep these there. So if you want to, if you've had those two loaded in, you can load another one here and see them in comparison. You can click this, you see it'll change that. If you mouse over it again, it tells you that it's this bin B5 and will give you the values, and I'll show you exactly like that. If you change the bundles to weights or stacks, it'll do the same. It will remember those and will change the graphs according to what we're measuring. So now we're measuring weight, and we'll show the comparisons in weight. Now obviously some products or bundles, the actual product is a lot heavier per one instance than some others. So a bundle count and a weight count comparison won't always be linear. There's quite a spike there where there's a lot of stock coming up on the C23, you can see. So that is that. At the bottom here, obviously, for the bin that is selected, what I have done is it'll load up all the stacks for that bin, and it sorts them according to heats. And then for each heat, it will show you the count, it'll show you the backlog that's shared, and then the QC, QR, and QH totals per heat for one product ID. But the very top row just does a combination of that. So that's the full stack. The stack has got 60 products in. Its total weight is like that. These headers are clickable. So if you wanted to sort it by heat name, you can click on that. You'll see it's sorting it. If you want to sort it by the count total, you can sort by that. You'll see that's pretty cool. Or the weight total, etc. It's just switching them back to front. And each product within the stack, or each stack within a bin, has got a product code, and they individually listed like that with their heats. As soon as I click another bin up here, it'll change the data down here. It'll tell you which bin you're on there. See, we're on C13. In the same here, you'll see the blue line always here will be C13, so that's the bin we're currently viewing. The other feature to remember now is this date selection here. You can obviously, we're starting at the 10th now and going back, so 31 records back. You can at any point come in here and move backward in time. This is where this app really shines. So if I don't want to see the relevant data from now, and there's a specific time frame, I can move to that time frame. So say now we want to start from January the 15th, and I click here. All these graphs will start at January the 15th now, going backwards, exactly as the bin, and the rate of change is also measured then within this time frame that we've chosen now, and according to how many days This graph is fed from this number here. This is there, and the last thing I was going to show you, which was really nice, let's just add some comparison graphs in here, is if you've added one or two comparison graphs, and we are currently viewing 2015, which is where it starts up here, and it starts up here, and you see these data, these are actually clickable. So if I moved back on any one of these to, let's say, and that's the 7th of January, and I click this, it'll reload the app, reload the data for the 7th of January, and the timeline that I actually clicked on there wasn't the default timeline, but then it will automatically change that to that bin of the timeline that I was on. So you'll see it's on bin B17. So it hasn't auto-selected the first one, it was according to the timeline we did. Let me just do that again so you can see. So currently B17 is selected. I'll just choose B23 as a comparison. Let's move the date to another date. The 7th. Sorry, yeah, it does clear this graph every time you change the data up here. It's just to keep the data in sync. So we'll just have to add something again here. But you'll see this is B21. The blue line is W13. If you click, and we're seeing W13 down here. If I click this B21 here, you'll see that this is now showing data for B21, and the date node that I clicked on, it'll change this top scene graph to show the bins sorted according to that. And at any time you can change the analysis properties to bundles or weight. Stacks is not really usable, but the data was there, so I just added it in. I guess I might have to do another tutorial on how to use this, but hopefully what I have explained is enough to give you an idea of how useful this is, especially the rate of change, which I think is good for business analysis. So we'll chat soon again. Thanks.